Gumbo. It is about 8:25 Central Time, 9:25 Eastern Time. We are up early and talking college baseball today. So I was at the Shriners Classic all day yesterday. I got to see Texas Tech Vandy, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas TCU. So we'll dive into a little recap, some of our thoughts of Friday, Saturday, and then wrap up with a few predictions on today. So, Kevin, I know we talked beforehand. I want to start with our surprise team of the week. And for me and you, I know one of those teams is the Oklahoma Sooners. Tons of question marks going into the season. Cam Johnson, who has had control issues for 2 years, looks like he's ready to be drafted into the MLB after 1 week. LJ Mercurius was phenomenal yesterday too. Their bats have been alive this weekend. What are your thoughts on this Oklahoma Sooners baseball team?
Yeah, really surprised. Now, when I say that, we talked when we did the preview. We talked about Skip Johnson and how good a pitching coach he is, and here we are once again. I mean, he just is proving it. I think from I will never. I don't think I can ever say again, as long as he's the coach there, that I doubt Oklahoma's starting pitching, because coming into this year, that was my biggest concern, was what their pitching was going to be like, and they're playing some decent competition there where you're at watching games in Arlington. They played Oklahoma State last night and Texas Tech the day one. So those are teams that have made the tournament, Big 12 teams, and they've just dominated their pitching has just dominated. They've also hit the ball. But Mercurius, LJ Mercurius with 12 strikeouts yesterday, Cam Johnson with 11, both going right around 6 innings. I think Johnson got to six. I think Mercurius was five and a third, and both guys just being dominant on the mound. So I don't think there's a doubt that Oklahoma has two good starters, and they'll follow it up today. And I know the pitcher out of the bullpen last night threw well too. So they had 16 strikeouts in that Oklahoma State game. And then they've also hit the ball. Brendan Bach has really hit the ball well. Trey Gamble has hit it well. Um, they've done some good things at the plate. Jackson Willits has been really good, which no surprise there. We thought he was going to be their best player, and he's in the field. He's proven that. But they're definitely a surprise team to me. Um, I thought going into the season that they would be in the bottom four in the SEC. Um, I would definitely move them up. They still to me don't have a roster, like a Texas LSU at the top of the league, but they're certainly right there in the middle with a bunch of teams that they're a solid team. So, any more thoughts on them from you? I know you do have some more.
Yeah, I have been amazed, especially with Mercurius yesterday. Sinker sitting 93, 94, change up low 80s, and then the four seam at 95, 96. I think topped out at 97 yesterday. He was just on point. He is one of those guys who, had a good year at UNLV last year, but under Skip Johnson has even elevated his game to higher heights for sure. And then Trey Gamble, great game yesterday at the plate, but made an unbelievable diving catch in left field yesterday too. The best play I've seen this season in college baseball. I know we're only 2 days in, but it was an unbelievable play, phenomenal. So this Oklahoma team, a team that thankfully we haven't released our preseason rankings yet. We're gonna do that on Tuesday, but they're a team that's already moving up my board. I know yours as well. Yeah, this game tonight against TCU is definitely going to be a challenge. Who's is Cole Rager? I think the freshman is starting for him tonight, Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
So I want to see how they hit TCU pitching. But I think even if it's a close game and they show some good signs, I feel good about this team. If they beat TCU tonight, then I have to readjust my rankings again. So
I think so because TCU is obviously very good. They've got two good wins in this tournament. Beat Vandy, and then came back last night and beat Arkansas. So TCU's a top 10 team right now, probably.
yeah, a couple more notes on the region or the tournament here in Arlington. Hunter Dietz got the start for Arkansas last night. And you could tell that he has not pitched in 2 seasons, but the stuff is there. So when that clicks this year, he's going to be a key piece. Fastball was sitting 96, 97. Slider looked good. The other off-speed pitches looked really good as well. There were, I think, 2 errors in his 2 innings. So don't know what his total earned run were, but he was definitely a guy. So yeah, three. Well, they're rolling all four as earned runs. I would count a missed ball in left field. I don't blame Damian Ruiz, but they had a weird outfield alignment on that. So I guess the kid hit through the shift a little bit. But I think Hunter Dietz, as he gets more innings, will be a key piece. I could see him moving to a bullpen role at some point this season, with his pitch count. I know it'll ramp up as the season progresses, but if they could have, like Tate McGuire looked really good for Arkansas last night. So if he could move into a starting role and Dietz can go and give him, 2 or 3 or 4 innings a weekend out of the bullpen, I think that could potentially be a better role for him than being in the rotation right now. But the stuff's electric. There's no doubt about that. This Arkansas team, even with the loss last night, they're still going to be top of the SEC. TCU is almost as good as they come in the country. They're there's they really TCU is similar to quite a few of these SEC teams. Is there's really no true weakness on their roster. And then a few notes on Vandy too, since I saw them yesterday. Um, they're hitting the ball well. Riker Waite, the shortstop, had 3 RBIs, 2 hits. Logan Johnstone, the right fielder, had 3 hits, couple RBIs. Um, Brody Johnston had 2 home runs yesterday. Braden Holcomb had a home run yesterday. I am really impressed with how well Braden Holcomb's playing in center field right now. He has he has given his team a solid piece in center field. A guy who's played all over first base, both corner outfield positions. Very rarely do you see guys who play first who can translate and be quality center fielders in the SEC as well. And then Austin Nye, had a rough first inning, but he went 4 innings, gave up 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs. He gave up one in that first inning. He walked a few guys, but that it was still a solid showing from him. So, good weekend here in Globe Life. 3 more games today that are all going to be good. But I am still getting used to indoor college baseball. I can tell you that much. It's a Globe Life's a phenomenal facility. Anybody who hasn't been should catch a Rangers game, or you've got a couple more college baseball classics over the next few weeks. But it is still an adjustment for me when I come and watch college baseball inside a dome.
I would agree with that. College baseball is meant to be played outside and enjoyed outside. Baseball as a whole, to me, is meant to be played outside. So totally would agree with you there. Barzai, for their catcher for Vandy, hit 2 home runs Friday night too. So they definitely shows a lot of ability for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna be good. Yeah, I mean the whole SEC is gonna be good. I know we talked pre-show about another team whose pitching is really surprised, and that's the Auburn Tigers. I'll kind of let you take the lead on their pitching staff.
Yeah. So um, you look last night. They had their starting pitching coming into the season was in question, and so their Saturday starter, which they played a doubleheader yesterday, but Jackson Saunders, he pitched 6 7 innings, gave up 1 run yesterday, and then Alex Petrovic followed him. He would be their 3 starter, but he threw 5, had 10 Ks, gave up 1 hit, and they didn't give up any runs. And following that, their Friday night starter, who we expected to be good, he didn't give up, but I think 1 run on Friday night. So a team that we like their lineup, but we were questioning, their ability to throw 3 good starters out there. And granted, it's week 1 and it's Youngstown, and that's not a team that hits the ball. And those northern teams, how much they've practiced outside is in question. That being said, though, these guys were pounding the strike zone. They weren't walking hitters, and kind of goes a little bit to what we said when we were discussing Auburn, that they had 8 or 9 good arms. And again, Butch Thompson does a really good job of coaching these guys. It was very similar to last year. You know, we didn't know who was going to emerge last year, and they had guys. And Saunders is a redshirt freshman. Petrovic is a sophomore. Both those guys had people in front of them. Andres Alvarez, Christian Chatterton were emerged quicker last year on the scene, but these guys have continued to play, get better, get coached up, and again in week 1 they've looked really good. So again, if Auburn is able to roll out there with 3 good pitchers on the weekend, and they've got depth again, they got plenty of arms, so they'll bring people out of the bullpen. But if they're able to roll with 3 good starters, again, they're going to contend at the top 5 or 6 in the league. So it's a tough league. Your thoughts with Auburn?
Yeah, starting with Friday, Jake Marciano, went 5 innings, only 65 pitches, and struck out 12 to no walks. That's one of the biggest things to me is the low walk numbers for everybody on this
Mm-hmm.
staff too. I'm gonna pull it up a couple things on yesterday for them as well. But you look at yesterday, Sanders 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. And then you look at the doubleheader game last night, and let me get this pulled up. Petrovic, 9 strikeouts, no walks again. So their starting pitchers combined for 29 punch outs to 2 walks. That's really solid numbers and low pitch counts. Petrovic was at 59 pitches through 5. Sanders went 6 with 73 pitches. So you've got a lot to be happy about. Sometimes when you play these lower teams, the strikeouts may be there, but you may walk 5, 6 guys too. So it's not as pretty, but they, really handled everything this weekend. And then I know Chris Rembert got banged up a little bit in the second game or the first game of the doubleheader. So, really hoping that he's able to come back. He's going to be a huge piece for this team all year and potentially an SEC Player of the Year candidate. So, the hope. I haven't read reports. I know he kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit. I don't think it's anything major. But the hope is, for him to come back very soon. I would assume this week he should be good to go. So, SEC baseball is going to be better with a guy like Chris Rembert playing in the SEC.
Yeah, you had him, and then Tyler Bell, who dinged himself, diving to catch a ball, so he missed yesterday's games for Kentucky. I don't think either one of them are long-term injuries, and you don't know because teams are very quiet with them. But like you mentioned with Rembert, both those guys are SEC Player of the Year candidates. Um, Kentucky's pretty deep. Ethan Hindle, who played a lot last year, played second. And Lawrence moved from second to short yesterday, and they didn't miss a beat. So obviously, you miss a guy like Bell, but Kentucky's still got plenty, and then Auburn's got a good deep lineup. But yeah, you definitely want to see those guys play. But I think they'll be back. If they're not back early this week, I think within a week, 10 days, they'll be back playing.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're back early.
And then, kind of the rest of the SEC, Texas had a come from behind win last night over UC Davis. I know we haven't talked about Texas baseball since our preview. And, a guy that I was high on last year, Ruger Riojas, who, was thrust into a starting role last year, pitched through the flu last season and, struggled at times, but lost 25 pounds pitching through the flu and, got the Friday night start for him. Had a little bit of a rough first inning, bounced back with 9 punch outs, though. That's a very dangerous offensive team. And then when you look at having guys like Flores, Grubb, Burns, Cade Bing, all those guys in a bullpen role, that's going to be a really deep team all year.
Yes, it is. Texas looked good. LSU had to come back Friday, but still won by 10. They looked good. Mississippi State, they're 3-0. To me, they're off to a good start. They've looked well. Um, they had a tough game on the first one. They ended up winning that one 6-5, and then won 7-5 yesterday. But again, to me, they show signs of being a really good team. Georgia's a team that kind of plays like we probably expected them to. They can hit the ball and score a lot of runs, and they've done that in a couple games. But then again, they're another team that they're only going to go as far as their starting pitching. And then and Dylan Vogue last night started out the first 2 innings, looked really good, and then gave up gave up 4 runs. I believe it was in the third, and they ended up losing game 3, 6-4. So they're Georgia, I would say, is kind of like what we thought they would be. They can beat anybody on a given night because if their pitching is good and their 1 and 2 guys threw pretty well, they can hit the ball with anybody. But can they win series with the pitching staff they have? And that's the question mark. So again, they kind of were what we thought. Tennessee, that's a team that we expected to be good, and you do. And to me, they didn't miss a beat. Now, granted, I know they weren't playing a very good team, but their pitching looked good all weekend. 1, 2, and 3. Coons, Blanco looked good. Mack was really good Saturday, and then they hit the ball. Blaine Brown, hit 3 home runs this weekend. He torched the ball, but then their whole lineup, it looked like a Tennessee team that has played under Vitello. So I don't expect them to miss a beat. So they're probably I would give them a little bit of an uptick on what they are. And then one other team that I would mention, no surprise, but everybody better give credence to what Texas A&M can do at the plate. They scored over 20 runs yesterday. They got a lot of guys that can hit the ball. Caden Sorrell's as good a hitter as there is in college baseball. Grahovic is good. Copian is good. Wesley Jordan's hit the ball well early. They just got a lot of guys. Dewars, I think, hit 2 home runs too. They got a lot of guys that they can trot out to the plate and hit the ball. And again, they play in Tennessee Tech. I know they're going to score a bunch, but those guys have proven they can hit the ball against good pitching too. So it's not a fluke. So they're a team that, again, Sadal got hit a little bit early, and Weston Moss did. So they're going to go as far as their pitching takes them. but they're going to win some games strictly on their ability to score 9, 10 plus runs a game. Any more thoughts about any of the rest of the teams in the league?
Yeah, with A&M specifically, I am impressed with Boston Kellner and Nico Partita, two freshmen handling the left side of the infield for them. Those guys had really good debut weekends so far. Kellner had two doubles yesterday, a couple RBIs, scored a couple times. Partita, I don't think he hit a home run. I think Friday it was. So, having two freshmen that produce immediately is also a big addition for them. But yeah, excited for another day of baseball today. I think we've got 8 games. As Vandy plays Oklahoma State, Arkansas plays Texas Tech, TCU plays Oklahoma, and then you've got LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, and Ole Miss wrapping up series. And then, a good game at noon. This is to win the series, Missouri and Mount St. Mary's. Missouri won yesterday, had a 5-1 lead after 5 on Friday, did not close out, ended up losing 8-5. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get an opening series win here, win series number one. So, excited for another good day of baseball and, ready to get after it.
Yeah, again, we've talked. The SEC, as dominant as they are in other sports, to me, baseball is a sport they dominate the most. I will make this prediction, and this is not really bold because it comes through every year. The team that wins the SEC will not be the team that goes the farthest in the tournament, and that's only because there's so many good teams in the SEC. You could be a second, third, fourth place team in the SEC and still win the College World Series. So again, that's not a really a bold statement because just so it's such a deep conference, and we're gonna go. I think Tuesday we're gonna kind of go through our 1 through 16 teams. We're going to have teams. I'll just tell everybody now. We're going to have teams that are we're going to say are going to go 13, 17, 14, 16, and they're really good baseball teams. So don't get offended by that. It's just the fact that the league is that good. And you could take anywhere from probably as I'm looking at some of these teams and where I think they're going to finish, you could go 6 through 12 in this league and there's not really much difference. I don't think at all.
Yeah, I mean, I see 11 or 12 teams that could make it to Omaha realistically out of the SEC.
There's definitely 10. Easy looking at it. Definitely 10 for sure.
Well, cool. That's going to be a wrap on our Sunday morning recap. We'll be live on Tuesday with a little bit of a basketball recap from the weekend, some baseball previews. So remember to like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll keep bringing you baseball content.